Shane Beamer, Tennessee fans have it goes back a while now. There's a clear rivalry now between South Carolina and Tennessee, and they're playing it both up. Like, obviously it meant a lot when South Carolina blew out and ended Tennessee's college football playoff hopes in Columbia this past fall, and it was a great win. Spencer Rattler had the game of his life. It was awesome. Like, they deserved every bit of it. They blew out Tennessee. Tennessee did not come to play on defense, and that was it.
Those are those kind of moments that create, like, not to cut you off, but they create like the true, genuine rivalries. Like, you ruined someone's season. Like, that's massive. Like, I think Steve Spurrier, I think Georgia beat Spurrier the year he won the Heisman, and like, this man hated Georgia forever after that, and he took it out every time he played Georgia. You could just tell he felt different at Florida and at South Carolina when he played Georgia. But yeah, this is one of the, like, especially South Carolina, they don't, all due respect to the Gamecocks fans, like, do not have the most history. Like, something like that, ending a top 5 teams college football playoff hopes, like, it goes a long way in just the hatred of a rivalry.
For sure. This is the other part of it, which is he averaged, like, you look at the splits for the South Carolina offense. Do you remember Marcus Satterfield, who's no longer the offensive coordinator? He went to Nebraska to go in with Matt Rule. Lost a lot of talent in the portal. Jaheim Bell out the door. Stegner over there back to Oklahoma for round 2 there.
Wait, he went back to Oklahoma?
Gone. Yeah, he did.
I don't think I knew that. He
did. He did go back to Oklahoma.
But Rattler's still there.
He's like the last guy there. And look, man, Marshawn Lloyd's gone. He's also out of there. He was a big-time recruit during the Muschamp era years ago, but that never fully came to fruition. I just look at this, man. I think Kentucky's going to be a lot better next year. I think Tennessee is still going to be better. I think Georgia's obviously going to be a juggernaut. I think there's a real possibility they take a huge step back. And there's something we have to remember. South Carolina fans, prior to the last 2 weeks of the season, were really just like, man, this really sucks. Like, this offense was brutal. You got pulverized by Georgia at home. You struggled throughout the year. Like, this offense was not good. Spencer Rattler had more picks than touchdowns. Like, none of this was working. We forget that the majority of this past year for South Carolina was not good. Like, this was a below average football team in the SEC for the majority of the season. They just ended on such a high note by beating Tennessee and Clemson, 2 top 10 teams back to back, lost the bowl game. But, like, that was just huge. Like, that's what people remember. It's like the what have you done for me lately stuff. But, like, the other 10 games matter. And the other 10 games were like, this still just doesn't look all the way right. And Spencer Rattler struggled in more games than he did in. This offense looked bad in more games than it didn't. You lost a lot of talent coming over. I just think Kentucky's going to be better. Florida, I think we'll see. Probably not, but I think Florida will be favored against South Carolina in a matchup next year. Tennessee's definitely not losing to South Carolina early next year in Knoxville. That one might be 65-7. Like, what Tennessee is going to run up the score on South Carolina in Neyland this fall is just going to be obscene. Like, absolutely obscene.
Yeah, that's a rough start. 5 games to start next year with North Carolina. I assume that's the Duke's Mayo game or whatever. Then at Georgia week 3, Mississippi State, and then at Tennessee week 5. Like,
so what does that look like to them? What do you think they start?
That's like, I don't know, 3-2 is like the absolute best case scenario. Like, that's going to be
3-2.
I'm saying, like, North Carolina is not some juggernaut. Like, Drake
I don't
May
think they'd be
is great
favored
and
against North
everything.
Carolina, though.
I know, but I would probably pick North Carolina. That's what I'm saying. 3-2 is the absolute best case scenario. So it's probably more like 2-3. Mississippi State, we don't necessarily know what
they go to Texas A&M
post Mike Leach. Tennessee, Mississippi State's going to look like. So, there's definitely some question marks. But yeah, getting Georgia and Tennessee that early is not going to be great. In terms of like heat index, though, it's still a 0. Like, for Shane Beamer, like there's absolutely no pressure on Shane.
No,
Beamer.
but when you say you've turned the program around, like you've turned the page, like when you have this vibe where like we've turned the page, like we've got this thing humming now. It's like, no, you don't. You're on 5-7 next year. Like, there's going to be a turn where it's
But you probably said that before last year.
They were right there at 5-7.
But they didn't go 5-7. They ended
What
up
did
going
they finish?
8-5.
7-6.
I mean, 7-5, and then won the bowl game.
No, they lost the bowl game.
I was just looking at it. I swear they went 8-5.
They lost to Notre Dame.
Oh, so yeah, they went 8-4 and then lost the bowl game.
Okay, so 8-5, yeah.
But yeah, so but it's South Carolina. They just, I mean, I know what you're saying. You did make a valid points for sure, because you were so quick to forget like how bad this team looked, because it's like the Tennessee and Clemson wins are just everything. But it's like, I mean, you beat 2 top 10 teams. You're South Carolina. You beat 2 top 10 teams at the end of the season. Like that's
the
massive.
Week prior, you scored 6 points against a terrible Florida team.
But that's what raises the questions. Is it's like, well, then what the hell happened to Missouri and Florida? Without a doubt, but you still win 8-5, and you're South Carolina. Like this is as good as it gets, just about. Like, and I honestly, he's almost like become a sympathetic figure too, because South Carolina was just like destroyed by the portal. So it's almost like, what is he supposed to do? We had our breakthrough year, and we had some young playmakers, and it's like, oh yeah, he's going to Florida State now. Oh, and he's going to USC. What is he really supposed to do about that? So I feel like Beamer also has some leeway in there. For one, people love Shane Beamer, right?
Yeah.
This fan base, he looks at
I don't
South
know
Carolina
Shane
as
Beamer.
like a
All I know is like he
job.
plays up the rivalry with Tennessee. Like he plays it up. Like there is something where he brings attention. Like he is okay.
He
with
plays
the spotlight.
everything up, honestly. Yes. So that's his jam. You know, he's trying to make South Carolina relevant. It's like you got to kind of think outside the box a little bit. But I mean, I agree with you. I think South Carolina's in for like a pretty bad season in 2023. But it's like then we can judge where his seat sits at that point. But I mean, I think they hired him, like there was negotiations, like he was very cheap when they hired him initially, right? For like a pretty short-term contract, I think I heard. So like after 2 years, this guy has drastically overperformed kind of what they expected him to do. So I mean, he's at a 0 right now. Like he's got a lot of job security. I think South Carolina, it's like you're talking about Vanderbilt. It's like different teams have different expectations. Like it wasn't like an A+ season for South Carolina in 2022, but it's, I don't know, like a solid like B+. Like it's a successful season.
I suppose. I don't know, man. We'll see. I just think it's gonna be a bad year, and I think we're on the same page. I think they take a step back. And Spencer Rattler not just going pro, I think was a mistake on Rattler.
Yeah, I just don't think there's like no way. There's no conceivable way for them not to take a huge step back. It's just like Marshawn Lloyd, Jaheim Bell, like those are the 2 best playmakers on this offense. Like it's unfortunate, but that is what it is.
Ryan Day, Matt Green. Is there any pressure on Ryan Day? Brian Hartline, promoted to OC, loses Kevin Wilson to coach at Tulsa, obviously losing in really, really rough fashion against Georgia, coming out at party for him, calling plays. This is what's weird. He said he's not calling plays next year. Like he's like turning, like he's going to be more of a CEO type coach. So is Brian Hartline, who's like never called plays, calling plays for Ohio State next year? Like that's going to be really weird. I don't know how that's going to work.